I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. Honestly, I thought Sarah and I had a solid marriage. We'd been together for about 8 years, and yeah, we had our ups and downs, but I always believed we were in it for the long haul. She's a strong-willed woman, a little bitchy sometimes, but fiercely independent. It was one of those relationships where I thought I knew everything about her, and she knew everything about me. Or so I thought. Lately, though, things felt off. She started coming home later than usual, sometimes smelling like perfume I didn't recognize, and I'd catch her lying about where she was. She'd say she was working late or seeing her sister, but I noticed her phone had more messages than usual, some from this number I didn't know. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe she was just talking to a friend, or maybe she was stressed about work. But then I started noticing other things. Her phone was always glued to her hand, hiding texts with her thumb, acting defensive when I'd ask who she was chatting with. She'd get bitchy, snap at me, tell me I was overthinking. Still, I let it go because I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I figured maybe she was just stressed or maybe I was paranoid. One night I decided to do a little digging. I was in her purse, no reason really, just looking for something I'd misplaced when I found a receipt. It was from a motel, an expensive one dated just a couple of weeks ago. I remember looking at it and feeling my stomach tight. I didn't say anything then, but I kept that slip of paper. It was like a gut punch knowing she had been somewhere she shouldn't have been. I thought, this can't be right, maybe it's a mistake. But then I found more. Hidden charges on the credit card, motel bills that matched the dates on her receipts, and even texts on her phone that seemed suspicious, flirty, suggestive, almost like she was planning something. I couldn't believe it. My wife, Sarah, the woman I trusted with everything, was cheating on me. That's when it hit me hard. She'd been lying to my face this entire time and I hadn't seen it. I felt so betrayed, so humiliated. I started asking myself all kinds of questions. How long has this been going on? Who is he? Why she would do this to me? The worst part was feeling so stupid for not noticing sooner. I always thought she loved me, but clearly I was just another fool in her game. I didn't sleep that night, just sat awake, replaying everything I'd discovered, trying to grasp how someone I loved could do this to me. The next morning, I knew I couldn't keep quiet about it anymore. I decided I had to confront her, no more hiding or pretending I didn't see the signs. I waited until she got home from her work trip. She'd been gone for 3 days, and the house felt colder without her. When she stepped through the door, I was already holding the receipts and the credit card statements. "Sarah," I said, my voice colder than I meant it to be. She looked at me like I was crazy, that bitchy smirk playing on her lips. "Who is he?" She rolled her eyes, trying to brush past me. "What are you talking about? You're overreacting." "No, I'm not," I cut her off. "I found the motel receipts, the charges on the credit card, your texts. Don't lie to me." That's when her mask slipped. Her eyes flashed with annoyance, her voice rising. "Oh, so now you're spying on me? Wow, real mature. I was just having some fun, okay? It's not like I'm sleeping with him, just a little flirt, a distraction from my crisis, whatever you want to call it." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. She was lying, I could see it in her face. That just a flirt excuse was so typical of her. She always had a way of making everything sound like it wasn't a big deal, even when it was obvious she was screwing around. And then she started to get really bitchy, throwing her hands up, saying I was paranoid, that I was accusing her without proof, that I had no right. The way she looked at me like I was some jealous fool made my blood boil. I told her I didn't care what her excuses were. I wanted the truth. If she was cheating, I deserved to know why, and I deserved to know how long she'd been doing it. She finally snapped, saying, "You think I'm some kind of whore? You think I don't have a right to have a life outside of this marriage? You're just jealous because I'm tired of your shit. I don't owe you anything. You're just a boring, controlling asshole who can't handle me having a little fun." I was stunned. I wasn't expecting her to turn it around on me like that, to be honest. But that's Sarah, always the bitch, always deflecting. She kept lying, kept twisting everything, trying to make me the bad guy. Deep down, I knew I wasn't imagining things anymore. The woman I married was gone. This wasn't the same Sarah I loved. I felt an intense mix of anger, sadness, and a strange sense of clarity. She was capable of lying straight to my face, of betraying me so openly, and I realized I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I had to decide what to do next, but right now, I just wanted her out of the house. I told her to pack her stuff and leave. She scoffed, but I was firm. She stormed off, screaming that I was overreacting, that I was crazy, that she'd see me soon enough. As she packed her bags, I sat there, staring at the mess she'd made, feeling like my world was collapsing. I kept thinking about her betrayal, about the nights I spent trusting her, believing in us. And I knew from that moment nothing would be the same. The woman I loved had turned into someone I barely recognized. The worst part was knowing I had to face the fact that I might never get her back, that I was going to have to start rebuilding from this wreckage. After she finally left, the house felt emptier than ever. I couldn't sleep that night, too much racing through my mind. I kept replaying everything she said, everything she did. The lies, the deceit, the way she manipulated me like I was some fool who wouldn't see through her. It hurt more than I thought possible. That bitchy, self-absorbed attitude of hers suddenly felt like a slap every time I remembered that smirk she gave me when she was trying to deny it all. I spent the next few days trying to process what had happened. I couldn't believe the woman I married, the woman I trusted with my life, had been sneaking around with some counselor she'd been seeing during her crisis intervention. Yeah, I looked into that too. Her billing records were revealing. Instead of office visits, she'd been billing for motel stays. That told me everything I needed to know. She was hiding something from me, and it wasn't just a flirt or some innocent affair. I started to get angry, really angry. Not just at her, but at myself for trusting her so blindly. I'd always been the guy who believed in honesty, who thought marriage was sacred. But she threw that all away, cheapening everything we had with some reckless affair. And I couldn't stand how she lied, how she kept up the act like she was the victim, trying to twist everything around to make me look like the bad guy. One thing was clear: I needed a plan. I couldn't just let her get away with this. I wasn't going to be some fool who got played. I started gathering all the evidence I could find: screenshots of texts, copies of bills, even some of her emails. I wanted proof, the kind that wouldn't just disappear, because I knew she'd try to lie her way out of this, spin some story to make herself look innocent, but I wasn't buying it anymore. My plan: I was going to expose her, not just to her but to everyone. I wanted her to feel what I felt: humiliation, betrayal, loss. I was going to make her regret everything she tore apart. I started drafting messages, thinking about how I'd confront her again, how I'd make her see that I wasn't just some fool to be played. I wasn't going to sit around and wait for her to come crawling back. I was done being the victim in this story. But more than anything, I was hurt. Deep down, I was devastated that the woman I'd loved, the woman I'd built a life with, was capable of this level of deception. I kept asking myself, how could she do this? Was I ever enough? Did she love me at all, or was I just some placeholder until she found someone better? These questions haunted me, but I knew I couldn't let them control me. I had to act, had to do something to restore some sense of justice and dignity. That night, I sat alone in the dark, holding her old pillow, the one she always hugged when she was upset, and I realized I had crossed a line I could never uncross. I never thought I'd be that guy, the one who catches his wife cheating and then plans to fight back. But here I was. I was furious, betrayed, and ready to fight for myself. I wasn't just going to let her walk away, not without a fight. I owed myself that much. The next few days were a blur of planning and sorting through everything I had uncovered. I was obsessed with the idea of exposing Sarah, not just for the betrayal, but also to make her see she couldn't get away with it. I started organizing the evidence: printouts of the motel bills, screenshots of her texts, copies of her billing records showing the fraudulent charges. I knew I had to be careful. This wasn't just about hurting her. I needed to make sure I had foolproof proof, something irrefutable. I also reached out to a couple of her clients, trying to get confirmation that she'd been meeting up with someone, her crisis counselor or whoever he was. Surprisingly, they confirmed she'd been acting distant and weird during sessions, often distracted, disappearing for long periods, and sometimes she'd come back looking flushed or irritated. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and rage. She'd been lying, cheating, manipulating all of us, her clients, her crisis, and me, all while she played the victim. One night I decided it was time to confront her again, this time with everything laid out. I knew she'd try to deny, spin, or gaslight me, but I was ready. I picked up my phone and started drafting a message to send her. I wanted her to know I had everything, that I wasn't going to be played anymore. I included snippets of the evidence, photos, billing statements, and a blunt message. I know everything. You've been lying from the start. Don't bother denying it. You're done. When I pressed send, I felt a strange sense of relief, but also dread. I knew she'd blow up, say I was stalking her, accuse me of invading her privacy. That's exactly what she did when I confronted her earlier. She called me controlling, obsessive, and told me I was crazy for believing some stupid billing record. She dismissed everything, saying I was jealous and paranoid. She told me I was ruining everything, that I was acting out of insecurity, that she needed space. But I wasn't backing down. I remembered all the times she'd belittled me, called me insecure, told me I was imagining things. Now I knew differently. I knew she had been lying for months, maybe longer. I felt a strange mixture of anger and sadness. Anger that she could do this to me. Sadness because I truly believed in her, in us. I started to see everything clearly. Sarah was not the woman I thought I married. She was something else entirely, selfish, manipulative, and a liar. I decided I couldn't stay silent any longer. I wanted to make sure she knew I had all the evidence, that I was serious about ending this. I planned to confront her face to face, to finally lay it all out, her lies, her betrayal, her hypocrisy. I knew it would be messy, emotional, maybe even destructive. But I also knew I couldn't keep pretending like nothing was wrong. I was done being her fool. From now on, I was going to take control of my life again, for better or worse. I just hoped I could survive the fallout. The confrontation finally happened 2 days later. I told her to come over, that I had something important to say, something she wasn't going to like. She showed up, looking annoyed but trying to keep her cool, that bitchy expression glued on her face. As soon as she stepped inside, I laid everything out on the table, printouts, screenshots, the whole package. I didn't hold back. I wanted her to see she wasn't going to wiggle her way out of this one. Her reaction was predictable but still infuriating. She rolled her eyes and scoffed, acting like I was just some jealous, paranoid fool. "You're crazy," she said, crossing her arms. "All this evidence, it's just your wild imagination. You're insecure and you're jealous because I have a life outside of you." I looked her in the eyes and said, "No, Sarah, I know what you've been doing. I know about the motel charges, the text messages, everything. You've been lying to me, cheating, and I'm done pretending it's okay. You didn't just have a fling, you were sneaking around, hiding it from everyone, including me." She snorted, trying to play it off. "You're overreacting. You're just jealous because I don't want to be stuck in this boring marriage anymore, and you're too insecure to handle it. Maybe I wanted someone who actually gives me some excitement, unlike you." I felt my blood boiling. That was her go-to move: blame me, call me insecure, and pretend she's the victim. But this time I wasn't buying it. I told her the truth. I'd had enough of her lies, her manipulations, her cheating. I told her I was done being her fool, that I wanted her gone. She argued, shouted, and called me all kinds of names, but I didn't care. I knew I had what I needed. Then she started crying, fake tears streaming down her face, trying to guilt-trip me into backing off. "You're ruining everything," she sobbed. "I never loved that guy. It was just a mistake, an escape. Please don't do this. We can fix it. I'll go to counseling. I'll change." I looked at her, feeling nothing but disgust. I knew her game. She was a master at manipulation, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. I told her to leave, and she did, but not before one last snide remark. "You're just insecure and jealous. You'll regret this." As she slammed the door behind her, I sat down and took a long, deep breath. I was finally free of her lies, her bullshit. It hurt like hell to realize the woman I loved had been betraying me all along, but part of me felt relief too. I'd been blind for so long, but now I could see her for what she really was: a liar, a cheat, and a manipulator. In that moment, I knew I had to decide what came next. I could try to rebuild, or I could let go completely. Honestly, I was exhausted from the emotional roller coaster. I just wanted to heal, to find a way to move on, even if it meant starting over completely. All I knew was I wasn't going to let her ruin me anymore. Not like this. I'd take my scars and move forward, one way or another. The days that followed were a whirlwind of cleanup and reflection. I finally started to piece myself back together, though it wasn't easy. The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible, and there were moments when I just wanted to forget everything, block it out, pretend it never happened. But deep down, I knew I couldn't. I had to face what was real, accept that my marriage was over, and figure out how to move forward. I took some time off work, needed that mental space to really process everything. I stayed away from social media, avoided her calls, and mostly kept to myself. I re-examined my feelings, anger, sadness, betrayal, but also a strange sense of relief that I finally saw her true colors. I realized I'd spent so much time trying to fix something broken when the truth was she wanted to break it all herself. I wasn't going to be part of that anymore. Eventually, I made the decision to file for divorce. It wasn't an easy choice, but I knew I deserved better. I deserved someone who was honest, loyal, and respectful. Someone who wouldn't cheat behind my back with some counselor or lie about motel charges. I wanted peace, not this constant feeling of being played. The divorce process was messy, of course. She fought every step, trying to spin it into some kind of victory, saying I was insecure, that I was the one who ruined everything. But I didn't care about her excuses anymore. I knew the truth, and I was done letting her manipulate me. In the end, I realized that this entire experience, painful as it was, taught me some vital lessons. Trust is fragile, and even the strongest relationships can crumble under lies and betrayal. But I also learned that I was stronger than I thought. I survived the storm, came out the other side wounded but wiser. I learned to listen to my gut, to trust myself more, and to never ignore the red flags again. Now I'm healing. I've started seeing a therapist, working on rebuilding my confidence and understanding that I don't need someone like Sarah to define my happiness. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know I'm better off without her. That betrayal opened my eyes, and I refuse to be blind again. If there's one thing I want to say to anyone going through something similar, it's this: don't ignore the signs. Trust your instincts. And when someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Because sometimes, the most painful lessons are the ones that set you free.